What do you think of Jim Carrey's The Cable Guy?
It's not my favorite movie. When I was younger, I didn't care for it. I don't know, maybe it was too creepy or something.
And generally, that's how The Cable Guy is looked at. You either like it or you don't. I thought I knew you, Rocky. It's a mixed bag. You're probably going to get a different response depending on who you ask. It stars Jim Carrey and Matthew Broderick, and it's just batshit crazy. And let's be honest, how cool was that Super Bowl ad? Come on! I first saw it when I was probably too young to see it. All of the dark and adult humor just went over my head, except for that nightmare scene. That got my attention. Otherwise, it was really just another Jim Carrey movie I had in the rotation growing up. But of course, as I got older, started connecting the dots with all the adult humor and just how dark it really is. But that slow realization of everything that's going on in the film never really put me off from it. Because, I was already adapted to it at that point. I totally get it if you saw this when it came out, how your reaction would be.
What the hell is even that?
And yeah, that's what the majority of people thought at the time. This dark role was kind of a departure for Jim Carrey, except the Riddler, which just as dark but less plausible in real life. Is that why nobody found that jarring? Audiences were not ready for Jim Carrey, the psychotic sociopath. But it's not like he had departed entirely from familiar territory. He just got a little spooky. Well, what if I told you it was originally darker?
I would believe it, and that's kind of scary, actually.
I'm not just talking about the deleted scenes on the Blu-ray, but just those alone would have brought the movie to a more disturbing level. There's the extended confrontation at the family dinner, the T-1000 bit in the parking garage, and Chip pretends to be the Headless Horseman, and Chip threatens to drill a hole in Steven's head. Yeesh. But an earlier draft of the script takes things even further. I'm not sure if these scenes were filmed during production because it is an earlier draft, but they're on the page, so let's take a look. Stephen Kovacs, played by Matthew Broderick, was just kicked out of his place after asking his girlfriend to marry him. From her perspective, he puts too much pressure on her, and she needs her space, which lovesick and clingy Steven is not in favor of. There's a scene in the script where Steven leaves Robin 6 messages on her machine, desperately trying to get her to come to the karaoke jam. When Robin finally gets a hold of him, she explains that him leaving her so many messages kind of freaked her out. Yeah, Chip is legitimately dangerous, but other than that, is Steven really that much different than him? The movie already begs this question. I'm just stupid and never thought of it. Oh well, I dare to be stupid. Yes! Chip Douglas, played by Jim Carrey, is a former cable installer that was fired for stalking customers. And according to the script, you can add beating up a customer to the list because he yelled at him for being late.
Jerk off!
He attempts to bribe Steven into a friendship by juicing him up with free cable. But as Steven becomes more and more reluctant to be his friend, Chip becomes more and more abusive. He's gone so far as to install hidden cameras in Steven's apartment. And after the nightmare scene when Chip calls him, the scene where a spider crawls on his face, it's revealed that Chip is actually calling Steven from a crawl space underneath the floor of his apartment, and that he's watching him on yet another hidden camera. Steven figures out where Chip is hiding, finds an axe, and starts chopping a hole in his floor. He looks down the hole and Chip grabs his face and licks it before he slithers away. He discovers pictures pinned to the floorboards, one of which is a picture of young Chip with his mother, and Steven's face pasted into it like they're legitimate brothers who grew up together. There's also a picture of Jerry Springer and a monitor he used to view the hidden cameras. After this, he calls Rick saying he's got new information on this crazy cable installer, and Rick says he's discovered the whole story on him. They meet at an old school under renovation, presumably the same one that Steven was working on before the cable guy got him fired from his job, and Rick explains that the cable guy's mother was arrested for prostitution and phone solicitation, and that he was also discharged from the Marines after getting mad at his sergeant and sending a weapons silo to DEFCON 2 using an old Radio Shack computer. Steven is standing in the shadows, but as he steps out into the light, it's the cable guy doing a perfect impression of Steven. Had this been in the movie, they would have actually dubbed Matthew Broderick's voice over Jim Carrey's with a slight lisp. Rick tries to run away, but he's shot with an air stapler. And before I continue here, I need to rewind a little bit and point out something else that was in the script. At one point when Steven and Chip are at his apartment, he tells him that he left his stapler there after he installed his cable. Steven retrieves it and he has him drop it into his tool bag, leaving fingerprints. And now we can continue. So Chip calls Steven and tells him that Rick is in the hospital, in shock and unconscious, with his rear end bandaged up. Steven pulls back a piece of the bandage and his butt is filled with staples, and the staples form the shape of a television. Chip calls him again, telling Steven that he has linked him to the air stapler and placed an anonymous call with the police, leading them to its location. As he's rushing out of the hospital, the police are already there looking for him, and a 100-mile-an-hour chase ensues through town. He loses the police and then proceeds to the satellite dish where the movie's finale takes place. I'm probably one of the few people that want this, but can we get an extended cut of The Cable Guy? And you could call it, if you thought the original version was bad, well, this one's even worse. This isn't sarcasm. I legitimately want this. I think the fact that I grew up such a Jim Carrey fan and that this was the first time he did something dark and unexpected, it makes it really appealing to me because it gets so uncomfortable. It's like being afraid of heights and being addicted to roller coasters at the same time. I don't know, bring it on. And to close this off, let's all give props to the real star of the movie, David freaking Bowe. Yeah. I've named this guy Bob, well, because I prefer to think Bob from UHF was part of the emergency medical service as a part-time gig. What a nice guy. Well, that's it. If you like what you saw here, hit like and subscribe and let me know what you think. Do you think they should make an extended cut of The Cable Guy? Come on. I know you do. Well, alrighty then. I can't think of a clever way to end this, so it's time for an abrupt ending.